When we're talking about release, we're talking about both hands, left and right. Let's have a look today at what the left hand does and how it should move ideally in the golf swing when the golf club releases to give you maximum power and also control of the club face. Hi, I'm Peter Knight. I've created this channel, Peter Knight Golf, to help you become the best golfer you can be. And if you hit the subscribe button and the grey bell notification icon, then you'll get a video from me every week helping you on your journey to become better. But let's have a look at today's video on the left hand. Understanding release and what it is and how it works can be quite confusing. And in fact, if you asked 10 different people, you might even get 10 different answers. In this video, what I want to do is look at the role of the left hand in release when the golf club gains its maximum speed, which essentially is what release is. So as my club approaches the ball, I'll have a sensation of the club suddenly gaining speed. Some people sort of describe it as a whip-like action, but it's certainly a time when the club gains more speed or maximum speed just approaching impact. Each of the hands has a different role, and there's another video, and if you click the card, you'll see what the role of the right hand is and a drill for it. But today, left hand. When I set myself up, my shaft and left arm are forming a slight angle already. When I get to the top of the swing, my left wrist has moved this way. It's hinged or cocked. It's probably about maybe 30 degrees or so. As the club's approaching the ball, the first thing that's going to happen is that this left wrist is going to begin to unhinge and straighten out. And remember, it's not a massive movement. If my left wrist is already hinged a little bit at the start, or it's out of line with the shaft, and then when I get to the top of the swing, it's further out, it's just going to come back to roughly where it was at the start. A little bit higher perhaps, but roughly the same. So first thing, my wrist is going to hinge and unhinge. And in the downswing, and as the club releases, that's one of the things that it's going to do. The second is that if I lay my hand out here, so my back of my hand and my forearm are flat, and if I rotate my arm, keeping my wrist flat, that's an example of how the left hand's going to work in the golf swing, left hand and arm. So the way that it looks, or what it looks like from here, my back of my hand and my forearm are flat, and when the club swings through, my hand and my arm are going to rotate together. They're not going to bend this way, they're just going to rotate. Now the first thing that I mentioned is the roll of the left hand unhinging, and the second thing is with that rolling, when you release a club, there's a combination of the two. Now as the club swings down, the left wrist is, during the downswing, it's slowly unhinging, but then as it gets close to the ball, that happens much more freely. And as I mentioned in the other video that I've done showing the right hand, if I just let this club free fall and let my arm move forward, the club is going to suddenly gain speed as it moves out of balance in the downswing. If I do the same thing with my left hand, if I let my left arm and hand fall, then I can still feel the club wants to, as it gets close to the ball, it wants to gain speed, and I'm going to allow that to happen. So I'm not making it happen by trying to deliberately unhinge my wrist. I'm not pulling the club through, and I'm certainly not trying to hold the club to prevent that unhinging occurring. So a good left-hand release drill is to let the club swing back, allow the weight of the club to hinge the wrist in the backswing, let the arm fall, and just notice that the club actually does begin to accelerate under its own momentum. Do that a few times to get the hang of it. And as I'm doing that, I'm noticing that my left wrist is not going to bend as it goes through. So an incorrect movement would be something like that. So now I've got a big bend in my wrist here. So if I move toward the camera, as the club swings through, that wrist is flat, gets through to here, it's still quite flat. Back of my hand and forearm are in line. So when I go to play a shot, I'm looking for exactly the same thing to happen so that as the club swings back and through, my wrist stays flat and the ball will go straight. So if I've got good control of this movement through here, the club face is likely to stay quite stable through impact, and of course that's what I want in order to be able to control the ball and have it go exactly where I want it to.